So a few weeks ago, I posed a question about Sue Surf asking how did he go from the Summer Madness stage to the cage on a RICO beat. I checked the docket because I wanted to see what he was charged with, and while I found the criminal complaint, I found the indictment, didn't find Surf. He wasn't listed as a defendant. He wasn't listed as a potential witness, a co-conspirator, nothing. It was facts, it was guns, it was drugs, it was bodies, carjackings. But when you scrutinize the facts, you couldn't find a single inkling of anything that could attach or even remotely be considered somebody that fits the description or fits the profile of Surf. Then I got it. So recently I got the superseding indictment. The superseding indictment is ugly. And it's ugly not because of the charges. Yes, it got bodies, guns, it got all that good stuff, but the indictment is sealed. The superseding indictment is sealed. When it's sealed, it means one or two things. It's either that it's some more charges, more arrests is about to come, or it's some informants out there and they're still informing. Listen, I've been a part of a few RICO offenses, and I was privy to see what the government had or didn't have, what they intended to prove and what they sought to prove, how they try to manipulate the facts, how they manipulated the evidence to get their conviction. I saw it. Now, obviously, I'm not a part of the Surf's defense. I don't know what they got. All we know is what's been published, right? Or what's in the docket. And looking at the docket is bad. Let me explain something about RICO. Now, first off, as you know, this is not a law student show. This is a show about a law student, a particular law student. So I'm not here to teach, but I think I should just explain to you how this RICO thing goes, because there's a lot of misconceptions. So under RICO, the government just have to prove four things. They have to prove the existence of an enterprise. They have to prove that Surf was either employed or associated with that enterprise. They have to prove that Surf participated, whether directly or indirectly, with the conduct or activity of that enterprise. And they have to prove that that participation was in a pattern of racketeering activity.
That's a lot, right?
The first three elements is not important. Well, actually, it is important. That's a poor way of saying it. A better way of saying it is not in dispute. It's not in dispute that the enterprise in question is the 60 gang. Now, remember, the statute doesn't require the government to actually prove legitimacy or illegitimacy for that matter. All they got to prove is a group associated in fact, a group of people associated in fact, right? And that fact being the 60 gang. The government doesn't have to show EIN numbers or articles of a corporation or some book of knowledge to show specifically, oh, these are rolling 60 gang. You don't got to show none of that. All you got to show is a group of persons associated in fact, and that fact being the 60 gang. So that's not in dispute. Terms of association, it don't help that Surf in every rap he talks 60, that he flies to California where they all started at and commingle with other members of Rollin gang. It don't help that. But the craziness, the government doesn't have to prove any. The government hasn't talked about, they don't have to list a single rap. They don't have to show the video of Surf flying to California, interacting with 60 gangs, saying all of this gang stuff. They don't got to show that. All they got to show is Surf is aware of the gang, right? And showing awareness is simply him putting a flag on. Like, the bar is really, really low of showing awareness. Like, and who isn't aware of the gang? The fact that Surf mentioned Nipsey Hussle, like, or have any allegiance to anything, like, you know, he's in a battle rap, like he interacts with other Crips, like the fact of that, that's enough, right? So the association is definitely not in dispute. Now, when it comes to participation, it's a little bit more hard, it's a little more murky to prove that, but at the same time, it's relatively easy. Participation could come in many different forms. It could come in financing a project, it could come in, you know, being a shot caller, or it could come in being a foot soldier. And you know what's crazy about it is, none of this is criminal. It's nothing criminal about being a Crip. It's nothing criminal about associating Crips. It's nothing criminal about participating in a Crip. Like, that's just status. Like, it's no different than you being a KFC manager or maybe a captain of some police force. What's criminal is the pattern of participating in a pattern of criminal racketeering activity. That's where the criminal is. That's where the crime happened. That's where the criminal elements happen, and that's where the centerpiece of this superseding indictment comes. Racketeering activity is just another way of saying crime, right? It was a predicate acts that the government used to criminalize this RICO, to make this a conspiracy to commit a crime, right? In this case, the government identified 4 different kinds of crimes that Surf committed. It was a shootout, had somebody go buy some X for him, divvying up some proceeds from some weed sale, and also a death threat. Now, out of all of them, well, the death threat is pretty serious, but out of all of them, the shootout that he got into was the most severe. And that's actually, and funny, ironically enough, that's actually the same shootout that Surf been talking about for the last few years, about how he got into a shootout.
The reality of the situation is, I attempted to murder somebody. I didn't finish what I was supposed to do, and I got shot.
In fact, he was on a gram talking about it. Remember that episode, Save You from Indictment class? He was talking about, he was trying to give you some pointers, if you will, on how to get away from indictment. Like when you go on shows like Vlad or any of these other shows, when they ask you these quote unquote incriminating questions, what to say, what not to say. The problem is he was wrong. He was wrong in a lot of ways.
2017, I was like, we beat that, inshallah. We beat that. So, you can talk about anything that's been beat. We beat that.
Listen, most people have a true misunderstanding about how double jeopardy works. Like how the government could use the charges you was acquitted or convicted of in another charge. Like, listen, double jeopardy, not to get into, this is not a law student show, not to get into the weeds of what double jeopardy, some long drawn out analysis. I'm not going to really do that. If you're convicted or acquitted of a charge, the government can use that in another case. They can use that in the RICO case, for that fact. For example, if I get arrested for murder and I get acquitted or even convicted of a date, the government can't charge me for murder again, right? Double jeopardy. Here, they're not charging you. If let's just say if it was me and we kept that murder thing, they're not charging me with it. They're charging me with RICO. It's two separate charges. So you got to be clear with that. They're not charging you with the shootout. But none of this has me worried. Listen, what's done is done. What they got is what they got. If they're going to use your raps, if they're going to use your trips, if they're going to use the money, the flashing, all that, they're going to use it. It's already out there. There's nothing you could do about that. But what's troubling, what I'm more worried about is what the superseding indictment doesn't say. Like, I don't know if you remember, the original indictment had two co-conspirators, both unidentified. One of them later came out to be in a second superseding indictment, which was Run It Up. I can't remember his name, but his handle was Run It Up, right? He was co-conspirator too. This one has four co-conspirators. One of them, it was what served when he got into the shootout. It's either there are going to be some new charges, new arrests to identify these co-conspirators, or it's an informant out there, or both. It could be both. One of them could be the informant or who knows? Listen, this is a RICO and I've seen the craziest stuff. But at the same time, listen, remember, we outside looking in. We don't really know what the government got. Only Surf, his defense team, Casino. That's the only people that know what's going on. We don't know, right? But, let's see what happens. I don't know. You tell me. I'm Mr. CKB, and this is not a law student show. This is a show about a law student, a particular law student with more than a decade. I've been in this thing we call a legal business. Look, when it comes to criminal law, it's not much I haven't seen. I've been prosecuted, and I've also been on the side defended against the prosecution. Like, subscribe, comment, share. I'm Mr. CKB, and I'm out.